Hey, welcome back to Sunday Morning Cafe, our ongoing conversation about building resilience and maintaining resilience, especially in difficult times. I'd like to begin our discussion today with a question. What was it that was play for you as a child? How did you play as a kid? Me, if you hadn't guessed by now, I'd bike ride. I'd launch myself on a country road just to see where it could take me. Happiness researchers, resilience researchers, my own personal research indicates that if you can reach back into your past and get hold of one of those things that was play for you as a child, adjust it for adulthood, and bring it into the current time zone, why, that's a great recipe for resilience and increased happiness. And if you can add to that aerobic exercise, if that playful thing we're talking about includes a habit of daily and weekly aerobic exercise, why, then you've just made quite an important investment in your future resilience. I've said it before and I'm going to say it right now. If you come to me as a counselor and you're depressed or anxious and you tell me that you have just enough money for either counseling or a physical trainer, I'm going to tell you to go ahead and get a physical trainer and get a habit of aerobic exercise on board that's about a minimum of 4 times a week. You know what I mean, where you're making this noise when you do it for about a half an hour. Get that on board first, and after about 3 weeks to a month, let's see how you feel, and then come back to me for the counseling. Because what I know is that if you can get aerobic exercise on board, depression will decrease. Our research tells us that anxiety indices will decrease. Happiness indices will rise for you. If you're someone who suffers addictions, the chance that you'll relapse is far less if you've got aerobic exercise on board. And here the last few weeks, we've been talking about relationship resilience. Here's another thing that you'll notice happening. After about 3 to 4 weeks, not all at once, but after about 3 to 4 weeks, you'll notice that the incidence of fiery marital conflict will go down. Your conflicts will be softer and your frequency of conflicts will be less. Why is that? Well, because we're all in with our spouse, when we get into conflicts, our fight or flight response gets kind of twitchy. When you get a regular habit of aerobic exercise on board, you'll find that your fight or flight response is less twitchy. And all of a sudden, what felt like a momentously matter of your own survival becomes far less urgent. And your more cerebral cortex comes into the argument, less brainstem. What I also want to say about aerobic exercise and that habit, if you can get it on board a minimum of about 4 times a week, there's going to come a day when you're busy and you can't get your half an hour or your 45 minutes in or your hour in. Fine. See if you can get your 10 minutes in, just so you can keep a place marker in to keep that habit rolling. So whether it's pedaling, paddling, whether it's rowing, swimming, chasing after a ball on a pitch or a field or a court, whether it's throwing a frisbee, frisbee golf, frisbee, ultimate frisbee, just throwing a frisbee, any of those things. Getting that on board, and if it involves play, you've got quite a recipe there. And if it's play outdoors, you brought one more happiness and resilience indices on board. So, I'm going to issue the Sunday Morning Cafe Challenge. If you don't already have this on board, could you talk a friend or 2 or 3 into being a little support group that supports and cajoles each other toward your exercise goals? Set yourself some kind of a reward at the end of it, whether that's a pot of money that you're going to win or lose if you do this, or some activity that you get to engage in when you get that health back to where you want it to be. Great. We'll see what you do with that. Before I sign off, I want to notice something that is happening on Sunday Morning Cafe's website. In the comment section, we're getting more and more people showing up to make comments. For instance, Laura Westhoff, a local historian and professor at Missouri University, gave a beautiful reflection. So did Bridget Rush, who's a professional lay minister here in St. Louis. Andy Wiegert from WashU's Med School, who manages student activities for them. He posted 2 reflections. And Phil Hangen, in the St. Louis community, he is a very well-known psychotherapist working with couples as well as individuals, and he's a well-known speaker and preacher. And just for the record, he was also someone who was on the Freedom Rides back in the Civil Rights era down at Selma and other places like that. Each one of those reflections are worthy of your reflection and conversation. They're excellent. And you might have a comment you'd like to post. So I'd love to see you there. So in the meantime, I've got a bike ride to go on. So I'm hoping to hear what you've done to engage in some playful activity that's got an aerobic component to it. See you next week.